Shift horn hasn't finished echoing when the sky humps like a lung pushed wrong way. Dust falls in thin threads from the gantries. I keep a hand on the toolbox and the other on the wall because the floor moves, slack and deliberate, as if something big swims underneath. Someone laughs without breath, someone prays. The air smells of hot iron and sweet rot. Lumen strips twitch like trapped insects. Minutes slip like grease. Sirens take and retake the same note. I shoulder through bodies toward the maintenance stair, toolbox banging my thigh, mouth full of old coins. The stair shakes and settles with a sound like a sack of nails being turned. I move because work is where hands know what to do. I have wrenches, I have keys, I have the habit of fixing what buckles and burns. Lights on every landing show the saint's face with a cheap leaf-gilt glare. The paint shivers. The saint's eyes churn like stirred soup. I look away and keep going. Below, either in the belly corridors, the air is closer to normal. Steam and old oil. Liquid rolls in the pipes with a wet crowing. On third sublevel, I find Lysa, still in her shop apron, clutching a length of chain like a leash with nothing attached to it. She sees me and her mouth works twice before sound obeys. "You're on shift?" she says, as if the horn might be lying. "Not if I can help it," I say. I tap her wrist to make her drop the chain. "Don't carry dead weight, and it makes you lean." She nods because instruction feels safe, even this small. We move together. People run past with packages they'll drop in 10 steps. One boy, 12 maybe, drags a sack that's bigger than him and keeps looking back like the sack might be his mother. I want to take it, but I don't want to touch anything more than I must. We cut through the water meter's gallery. The needles on the faces all point down, trying to escape. One of the glass covers bulges as if breathing. Lysa murmurs a staple prayer. I stick to the path marked for maintenance boots and don't step in the reflections that lie where no water sits. They show ceilings that don't exist. They show my back walking away from me. I keep my eyes where my feet are. We turn toward the shrine to St. Dearmouth. It's small, a hallway notch with a grate and a copper basin wired to the wall. People cram there already. A guardsman from the Hab militia is banging his rifle on the floor as if it's stubborn, yet his face is wet. He's babbling about reinforcements, but we don't hear any boots but our own. An old woman holds a wafer under her tongue and whispers around it like she's trying to nurse it. A boy with cracked lips keeps punching his own belly, listening for an answer. Lumen stink rolls over us in slow tides. I get to the panel by the grate and pop it with my square key. Inside, the line fuses droop like softened bones. Lysa watches my hands, and the familiar rhythm of wire twisting sits in my wrist even while the walls swell and subside like they're tired of their own shape. The militiaman kneels and mutters into the saint's palm. The copper basin is full of coins that are starting to rust in patterns that look like alphabets I don't know. I cut and fold and cinch with a little hiss of laughter in my ears that's not mine. The laugh threads my name through itself like a bead. When the lumen over the grate comes steady at last, everyone makes a sound like a cough and a breath pretending to be a cheer. The light doesn't hold the wobble of shadows away, but it gives them edges. Edges are a mercy. I close the panel. Lysa touches my sleeve without asking, and I don't pull away. We should get below the feed line, I tell her. Pipes make walls when walls forget they are walls. She nods again. The militiaman rattles his rifle and tells us to stay where the saint can see us. And I look at the saint and do not look long. We pass the doors to the market arcade. Half the steel shutters are down, the others dented and grinning. Inside, I hear the market announcer shout specials in a voice that broke 15 years ago. The voice leaps into another throat and then another and ends in a choir of bargains that never end. A smell of cinnamon comes from under a shutter where red slips of paper creep like tongues. Lisa grabs my arm hard. I think of my kid. No, not mine. He'd old neighbor Hal's boy, Perrin. He'd stepped over his little sleep mat that morning, told him to keep his boots on even under the blanket when the horn sounded. Boots mean you can move. I should have gone back. I didn't. I have my toolbox because I chose it faster than a face. The floor pitches. Somewhere above, metal screams, then laughs, then goes on screaming. I push Lisa sideways into a service cutout. My shoulder hits mesh hard enough to make sparks. The mesh is hot and wet at the same time. A thin voice whispers through it, "Good hands, good hands, good hands." I tell my hands they are mine. We tire after 2 levels. We stop while I pretend to check a valve. A man comes around the bend with a baby clamped to his chest and a look like he lost something he's glad to be rid of. The baby is a wrapped lump. I don't see it breathe. He moves past like a bad dream that doesn't know my name. We descend. We pass the door to the recyclers. Through the porthole, I see little flaps opening and closing, and spilling out pale, meat-smelling slurry onto a belt. It writes loops on itself. The loop sends letters up in the spray. They crash to the floor like birds. Lisa pulls me faster. When we make sub-level 9, the noise changes. Before, the building grunted like old men sleeping. Here, it's like a choir of children swallowing a bell. The corridor flickers, not just light, but place. I take a step and come away with 2 sets of footprints behind me. Did I double back? I can't afford to think about that without breaking. I bang my toolbox against my own knee to prove the knee is real and mine. We find 3 more like us at the pressure door to the under thoroughfare. 2 women and a man with his hair shaved in patches like he's mid-arrests. He is levering the door with a pry bar and crying from the mouth and the nose both. The door's lights strobe red, green like a code I never learned. I wedge the bar, throw my whole weight, even feel something inside the mechanism change its mind. The seals cough. I twist the manual wheel until my shoulders burn. Someone on the other side bangs back. I hear words, then the words slide down the door and don't get up. We get it open half a meter. Air slams us with the stink of burning sugar. The under thoroughfare beyond is lit by breech lamps spaced along old brickwork. The bricks are damp enough to sweat. Movement tugs at the corners of sight where the lamps fail, and I tuck my toolbox under my arm like a baby and we squeeze through. On the far wall, a saint poster has stuck itself above a drain, wrinkles making it frown. Someone has scratched a prayer into the mortar with a nail until the nail bent. The letters are deep and raw. This comforts me in a way I distrust but won't question. Traces of work are good. We head east because the west carries a thin music like teeth lightly clicked together. We don't look beyond that bend. My throat tightens as if my own hand is on it. Lisa keeps hold of my jacket. The shaved man replaced his pry bar with a length of pipe that whistles because air moves through holes that weren't there earlier. He keeps plugging the holes with wads of cloth, but they migrate. I smell rain where there has never been rain. From an opening ahead, a child's sobbing catches like cloth on a nail. We go because we are not stone. A boy sits on the steps of a maintenance hatch with his boots off. He toes white and bluish like just boiled shrimp. His boots stand beside him full of blood to the ankle. He rubs at his feet as if he can polish feeling back into them. Under his hands, the skin drifts as if it floats on black water. "Where are your people?" I ask. He nods to a hatch labeled with a number that blurs and crawls. They went in. He looks down the thoroughfare where the music breathes. Then they went somewhere else. He adds very small. They didn't take the boots. Boots mean you can move. I swallow once like the first day I saw the cutting table. I take the boy's boots and dump them. Clots slide out like indifferent creatures. I make laces wide, gather his cold feet, fit leather around them and pull tight. My fingers keep wanting to knot 3 times and make a saint's mark. I refuse the 3rd knot in case it ties him here. "What's your name?" says Lisa. He tells us something the ear can't hold. I call him Perrin because that's the name my mouth knows how to protect. He nods as if I am right. We set off with him between us toward the relief station 2 intersections down, where there will be a counter and a bucket and a person with a stamp that says you belong somewhere. The air grows heavier as we walk. It presses like authority. Every 3rd breath drags. The boy treads carefully like the ground might not honor the deal it made with gravity. The shaved man whispers to the holes in his pipe, and they move onto my sleeve and I slap them flat. We pass a sump with standing liquid the color of weak tea. Faces are in it, not reflections, faces, large, belonging to statues or broken machines. They rise and settle like stingless jellyfish. One is my father, but my father is 12 years dead and didn't wear a crown of wires, so I look away. We turn the last bend before the relief station, and then everything holds its breath. The light at the end of the run is wrong. It is not a color. It is a direction like downhill made into shine. It pushes. It pulls. Our eyes slide on it. Things tumble out that are not things, that gain edges only when they touch something that ought to be solid. One touches the floor and the floor becomes a throat talkative with hunger for 3 heartbeats, then stone again. Another touches the wall and unspools brick into a red scarf that's too warm. Like something with patient hands begins to knit it. A figure steps out of the wrong light. It's tall in the way ideas are tall. Its head is a crown of prospects. Its mouth is an accident that wants to happen again. The eyelids close upward. The relief station counter is just behind it, and the person with a stamp is trying not to scream because they know the stamp won't matter. The tall figure reaches down and takes her in both hands with a bizarre gentleness, as if learning something new about softness, and then spreads her into a banner. Her voice becomes a fluted drone. She is still a person and also not. The shaved man lifts his pipe like a banner of his own and hollers a wordless thing. He runs. He's not even halfway when whatever is watching him from itself decides to meet him by stepping closer in a way that is also farther away. The pipe goes right into its chest and comes out nothing. The man turns into a bag for a second. A seam opens and spills him into an alphabet of organs. They dart around us like startled birds and cling to the brick with little pink hands. Shock twitches through us in cold waves. Lisa shoves Perrin back and I grab her wrist and we run. We run without plan, backs to the wrongness, because going toward it is like agreeing. We hit the cross run and pull left where the ceiling lowers enough to make our shoulders scrape. The walls are slick. They leave words on our clothes that fade like bruises, and we hear the music get closer, then behind, then inside the sound of our own breath. The floor keeps being floor until it doesn't. We drop 2 steps that weren't there. My teeth hit and I taste iron again. A gate ahead shivers between shut and open. I throw my toolbox as if it's not full of what I need, as if it's ballast sinking me. It jams the gate on an open long enough. Lisa drags Perrin through and I yank the box after by instinct. "Good hands," says a corridor voice. I manage not to break from that. In the chamber beyond, 4 more huddle around a pilgrim-marked cask. The cask drips water the way a dream drips into waking. Slow, unequal, chancy. A little reliquary hangs from it. Someone's finger bone in a glass tube tied with wire. The bone is as ordinary as anything I've ever seen. We crowd into the ring of non-warmth around the cask. Perrin presses his lips to the glass and drinks fog. Behind us, the gate ticks and tries to make up its mind, and we brace it with a bench. The others nod because new muscles for nodding grew in their necks today. A woman with a bloodless scrape down her face wraps Perrin in a sash of woven plastic. Lisa sits with her back to the reliquary and closes her eyes. Her lips shape a harvest prayer by habit. The words snag and fray and she reels them back in, makes a knot in her mouth. I touch the bone once. It is cool, not cold, not hot, not wrong. And my fingertips stop shaking long enough for my nails to see themselves and remind me they exist. We wait. The chamber keeps changing its mind about whether it's square. Every time it tries to be something else, the cask sweats harder and the reliquary goes dull, then bright. It feels like a conversation I'm not part of. I accept that with a tired nod because contests I cannot enter are a mercy too. A sound starts up again beyond the gate, not the children's bell choir this time. And this is like a butcher dragging a cleaver through wet straw and finding bones every third pull. It comes closer in pieces. Some of us breathe in and forget to let it out. The thing that comes through is wrong in a modest way. It has legs. It has a head. It is too many of both, but I can count it if I lie to myself. Its hands are made of other hands holding knives of reflected light. Its chest is a cage, and inside the cage sits a child who hums in a voice that isn't his while winding a silver thread around a spool that disappears into the thing's throat. The child's eyes meet mine and do not see me because something else is using them as windows. It presses the gate without touching it. The metal boils like milk and then settles with its skin back on. We all hold our sides as if that will keep organs from rearranging. Perrin slides behind the cask and yanks me after with surprising strength, and the reliquary flares like breath caught in glass. I spot against the far wall the old mechanical bell that calls crews to flush the sumps. It hangs from a crooked bracket. The pull rope is frayed and spotted with someone's spit made visible. I picture that bell ringing while the chamber becomes a throat. I know sound can be a shape. I know shapes fight. It is enough. Keep him behind the cask, I tell Lisa. She doesn't nod. Her hands dig into Perrin's shoulders until the bones print in her palms. The thing pushes again. Iron sings. The child in its chest hums higher, and I feel my teeth flex like spines. I take 3 steps, slow and steady so my feet won't forget to stay feet. I put my hand on the rope and it's hot, then cool, then wet, then rope again. I clap my other hand around the reliquary on its wire because I want 2 truths in me when I pull. I yank. The bell answers, not loud, not grand, but stubborn. It calls work. It calls shovels and buckets and salted gloves. It calls valves turned in the right order so the stink doesn't kick back. The sound scratches the walls and they scratch back. The thing flinches exactly the way animals don't. I yank again. The bell thrashes in its iron yoke and the room lurches as if the sound is heavier than us. The reliquary burns my palm. It is the first pain today that means precisely what pain used to mean. I cling to that translation as if it's a ladder and pull again. The child in the cage turns his head very slowly until the hum clears his throat and a voice leaks out like syrup. Stop! The word is small and domestic and makes my stomach toss because my kid, Perrin, used that tone when he still had a mother. I focus on the rope's fibers under my skin. I pull. The bell barks. The thing's knives of reflection drop their points and twitch as if embarrassed by their own faces. The gate gives a handspan, and the smell of put-out candles rushes around us. The others choke and hold on to whatever is theirs. Lisa begins to name tools under her breath. Mallet, auger, spanner, file, nippers, wrench. The names thread through the bell's savory clang like a stitch. I feel inside the motion the little confidence of habit, and that grounds me enough to make the next pull hard. The thing shudders and puts one leg wrong. The foot that falls off isn't a foot, it's a change of mind wrapped in skin, and it bursts like a joke told too early. The cage around the child loosens, a thread snaps. The hum stops, just a breath, an infant breath, bare and naked as truth, and then comes back ugly. That breath is the most frightening sound I've heard, because for an instant something human was where something else stored its tools. It reaches through the gate, not an arm but hunger. It makes us remember our mothers cooking in ways that make us gag. I flap the rope like a fish on its tail, and the bell roars against its smallness. Brass shakes dust out of the ceiling. The reliquary is branding my palm a bright oval that will be there until the skin wears off. The hunger pulls harder. A woman beside the cask starts to slide. Lisa catches her ankle and bites her own lip until blood threads like ink. Steel bangs down the thoroughfare, a real sound boots human-hammered rhythm. Gunfire chops the air into squares. The hunger pauses as if counting, and someone shouts a litanic order that sounds like numbers eaten by prayer. I keep ringing. I can't stop because stopping would be afterward. There is no afterward yet. The gate starts to bubble in cool lumps. The thing withdraws the idea of its hand and makes a new decision. It pushes itself flat. It comes under the gate the way water ignores every shape made to halt it. Its face spreads like spilled milk and gathers again as it clears. I back up because living survives better when it doesn't pretend to be brave. The bell runs hard out of sound and into a scrape. The child in the cage reaches his own hand through the bars while not looking at it. His fingers point at me and become twigs, then join, then turn to candles, then break. He hums in complaint. Perrin moves. He skitters from behind the cask, dives low like a rat under a cat. He snatches my toolbox with both arms and rams it under the gate exactly where the metal is softening. It wedges. His face is shut tight like someone bathing in cold water. His skin looks older around the eyes. He says one word, "Now." I catch what he means. I put both hands on the rope and swing. The bell hammers a final shape of sound into the chamber. The reliquary pops from its wire, clatters against the cask, and drops into the drip basin. Water hisses, steam climbs. Where the steam touches the gate, metal crusts thick and ugly like scars forced to bloom. The thing underneath is caught. Not gone, not undone. Caught. It spreads its anger through the floor in little waves that make my teeth sigh. The child in its chest sobs, only once. Then the knives of reflection flare. The room fills with wrong light. A figure in a gas hood steps into it from the hall, thrusts a pole with a plate on the end like an outsized pantograph right into the thing's face. Prayers printed on the plate burn backwards. The gas-hooded figure keeps yelling a word like down, down. Behind them, others in patchwork armor haul a mesh of chains like chianettes. They smell like discipline and sweat and cooked paper. They smell like notice and please be us. The chains hiss over the caught thing and stick like cobwebs to grease. The wrong light turns a wheel inside itself and dims. Every surface decides to be its own self for a period short enough to gasp in. And the gas hood clamps a seal on the place where the cage opens. Hands push, wedges bite. A stamp thuds a monstrous seal. The child's eyes slide shut from the bottom and open again from the top. He is not the child. He is a window that learnt to look back. He smiles brokenly. I hate that smile in a way that has the shape of love. I hate what uses it. Then the metal gives, and in the mess of motion, heat, and prayer to numbers shouting, Lisa drags me into a side service crawl. I am still wrapped around a bell rope that now is just a rope. The reliquary lies in the basin, drinking itself with a soft hiss. Perrin pulls me by the elbow. I let him. We lurch down the crawl space as smoke with ideas takes the halls. The gas-hooded ones hold the gate. We hear a voice count. We hear hands slam, chains crank, the stamp go thud, thud, thud with a cadence that eats its own echo. We move because forward is the only direction we have not yet betrayed. The crawl opens into a junction where the old metro bones sleep under rust. A train skeleton yawns without teeth. We crawl into its mouth because the mouth has hard edges, and I am personal with edges now. The floor under us is pitted and glassy as if breath scoured it. We fold ourselves under a bench where once lovers carved initials and a heart with a split down it. The split has grown wider. The initials are new, then old, then new again. I put my burned hand on them to make them settle. It works for a breath and fails the next. All day or an hour or 5 minutes later, the measure breaks like a soft egg, the shutters ease. Not away, not out, just down to a level my bones can set teeth against without splintering. Lisa's hands stop naming tools and go empty, and she cries with her mouth shut. Perrin sleeps the way hurt dogs sleep, jaw twitching, feet ready but not moving. I pry my palm slowly off the bench, and leaving a skin print that will dry into a flake I won't fetch. The reliquary lies in my other hand. I don't remember picking it up. Its glass is scorched black on one side like a bad loaf. The finger inside is plain as a twig. I don't know whose it was. I say thank you anyway, quiet, to the bench, to the bone, to my rope-burned hands. Thank you means I'm not finished yet. That is enough. Noise comes and goes beyond the train's ribs. Once something like a choir passes, all voices identical, are asking the same question that might be a name or a debt. The gash-hooded ones answer in flat metallic bursts. The answers make a smell like machines waking. The choir declines, then returns from another angle and declines again. We keep our eyes closed when the air feels looked at. At last, the clatter settles into sporadic knocks like someone making sure each door still knows its own key. A deeper horn cries, real, brass, squadron straight, and echoes through rust. Air moves fresh for a second, tainted with the known grit of propellant and the sweet taint of field alcohol. In the space after, my ears decide to hear my own blood in my stomach, which remembers it is a creature with its own soft demands. I press my skull to the floor to cool it. Boots thump on the thoroughfare above, not running, measured. A voice calls clear words through a loud hailer, words like remain and assistance and assembly that sound like tools you can break your teeth on. We don't move. We will in a minute. And we will when our heads stop ringing with bells that don't hang here. Perrin wakes. His gaze locates the reliquary and stays. He does not reach, neither do I. We look a long moment at the small glass tube with its blackened crust and the white of old bone inside. I slide it back under the sash at my breast where the weight sits like a new pocket I was born with. My burned palm prints it again through fabric. Pain answers with a clean yes. From the track well, a slow drip keeps time. In each drop falls through a seam of old rust and lands invisible below, ticking like a cheap clock repaired 3 times over and still dutiful. I count 10, stop counting at 11, then start again without meaning to. The world feels like it might agree to these small repeats for a while. Across from me, a sticker peels off the wall in slow curls. It's a work notice, a safety catechism half scrubbed by boots. The ink runs down in a language I know how to ignore. I smooth the corner with my thumb. The glue is gummy and determined. Under the paper, paint the color of stale bread holds. The bench creaks as Lisa leans heavier into it, her head finally slipping against my shoulder. The hook of the old bell rope mark gouged into my burned palm throbs with a measured insistence. Somewhere beyond, a stamp hits metal once, hard, like the period at the end of a line. I pull my toolbox close with the toe of my boot. The lid is dented into a shallow nest from where it held at the gate. A rivet clings to the latch, wobbling when I breathe on it. I cup it in my good hand so it stops.